Shalom everybody, it's Kalila Kelly, your Irish Jew, and today I'm going to look at a story from abcnews.com.au which is entitled Far Right, Israeli Politician's Visa Cancelled Ahead of Speaking Tour. And we know that the buzzword is the far right is evil, and the far right is pretty much at this stage anybody that you don't like, anybody that's even remotely not woke, anybody that's pro women's rights, for example, anybody that's not for the castration and sterilization of minors, for example, is referred to as far right. Yes, my friends, anyone and everyone is now technically a Nazi if they don't abide by the left wing's ideologies. And here we have a gentleman from Israel, Simcha Rothman, was due to visit Australia for a speaking event. He was invited by the Jewish Association and was going to talk to them about Israel and the state of affairs. And so I'm just going to have a look here at this article. Okay, so the federal government in Australia, one of the cohort of Western countries that is essentially giving the green light to Hamas and essentially validating and supporting and enabling the terrorist strategy of using human shields, including children. The strategy of going and killing your enemies, civilians and soldiers alike, and then retreating back to your own land or your own country or your own borders, and then hiding behind human shields so that when the enemy retaliates, as enemies tend to do, they then have to go through children, all of these starving children that we see on the news day in and day out. You see, first it was apartheid, then it was war crimes, and then it was, what was it after that? I'm trying to keep track. Bombing hospitals, and then it was targeting schools, and of course killing journalists and free speech. What else has Israel done? What else are they guilty of? All the big ones. Oh, they're doing a Holocaust themselves now, apparently. Doing a Holocaust. Oh, and then starvation. Starvation, war crimes, Holocaust, apartheid. I think I've got all the big one, guys. But if I've forgotten any kind of massive, essential, evil human action, let me know in the comments so I can add that to the list that Israel's guilty of, right? Anyway, the Australian government, who at this point is an enabler of Hamas, has cancelled the visa of Israeli politician Simcha Rothman, a member of Israel's far-right Mafdal religious Zionism party, just days before he was due to arrive in Australia for a speaking event. So he's part of the coalition government with Bibi Netanyahu's war government, and he told the UK's Channel 4 in Britain that Britain should let Palestinians run away from Gaza, and if it did not, you're aiding and abetting a terrorist organisation using them as human shields. I think that's similar to ideas that Trump's put out, that basically if people want to leave the region, they should be able to. Some people say if they want to leave the region or if they want to stay, either way, people should have freedom of movement. They should not be stuck in the boundaries and the confines of this place called Gaza, where they're not allowed to leave unless Hamas let them, basically. Again, being used as human shields. He said that those refugees should not be accepted into Israel because they are our enemies. Well, I think that's kind of true because they're at war. So that would make sense. Why would you accept refugees from your enemy who's just made war on you and has gone and killed over 1,000 of your civilians, including babies? We all care about children and babies, just not when they're Israelis, right? But that's the point. That's true. How is that not true? They are the enemy because they are fighting each other. According to international law, he said, treaties about refugees in a time of war, you don't let them conquer your country with refugees. That's a valid point in the context of Israel and Gaza. If you had 2 million refugees going into Israel, then now you've created a fifth column during a time of war. It's like fighting the Nazis, or it's like fighting Japan in World War II and then taking millions and millions and millions of refugees from that country while you're still fighting them. Again, the math don't math, the politics don't politic, the history don't history, the war don't war. But the complexity and the reality of this situation is just ignored. Anyway, so he goes on. He was going to speak in Australia in a matter of days, including at an event hosted by the Australian Jewish Association. And here's where it gets so hypocritical and funny, is because Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke said Australia would not accept people travelling to cause division. Our government takes a hard line on people who seek to come to our country and spread division. Unless they're carrying an ISIS flag, or a Hamas flag, or a Hezbollah flag, terrorists are allowed. Terrorists that want to cause division and blow you up, they're okay. But Israeli politicians, Our government takes a hard line on people who seek to come to our country and spread division. I already said that. If you're coming to Australia to spread a message of hate and division, we don't want you here. How is what he said a message of hate and division? His country is at war. It'd be like saying to the Ukrainians, why don't you let all those Russians into your country while you're fighting Putin? Huh? It's not very nice of you. And then you want to come here, Mr. Zelensky, and talk about your country. Well, that's very hateful and divisive against Putin and the Russian army. I don't think that's very kind at all. No, siree. You see the hypocrisy and the illogic of Burke's argument, and Burke is rabidly pro-Palestine. He's very, very left-wing. Doesn't take much digging to find footage of him acting like a complete tosser on this regard. There he is. He is a Burke and he looks like a Burke and his name is Burke. Under our government, Australia will be a country where everyone can be safe and feel free and feel safe. Well, except the Jews, because anti-Semitic events have been skyrocketing hundreds and hundreds of percentage points since October 7. And I've given you anecdotes before of friends getting punched in the face and of people being attacked. And I've seen countless examples of anti-Semitic microcrimes, microaggressions. Seen that all the time, non-stop. I mean, this is complete 1984 gobbledygook speak right now. And so tone deaf and you could say that it's becoming anti-Semitic because Mr. Burke has done sweet F all to protect the Jewish minority in Australia, especially when there was that massive protest across the bridge and they're literally carrying the flags of terrorist organisations and chanting death, death to the IDF, amongst other things. Not to mention the event that happened way back in Sydney at the steps of the Opera House, when there was literally a mob there chanting, gas the Jews, F the Jews. And of course the police try to cover that up by saying, oh no, they weren't saying gas the Jews, they were saying, where's the Jews? Where are the Jews? Not sure that's much better, mate, because that means they're looking for the Jews so that they can hunt them down and kill them. I mean, the stupidity, the hypocrisy and the rankness of the Australian political game at the moment is grotesque. Anyway, so Rothman kicks off. He says it's anti-Semitic. May or may not be. You guys decide. But he's basically saying, I was invited to this community due to anti-Semitic attacks on synagogues and a strong sense of alienation and hostility within the community. And Australia's decision to deny me the opportunity to come and speak to my people is blatant anti-Semitism that gives a boost to terrorism. I think it does, for sure. But the Labor Party is kind of in bed with a romanticised version of Islam, and it's in bed with, of course, the sort of soft form socialism and nice, sweet forms of communism. Again, it's that really boring, tired, repetitive alliance of red and green, of communist and Islamist that we've seen take place across Canada, that we've seen cropping up here and there in America, just recently with the New York mayor elections, right? And we're seeing it in Australia too, and across the Western countries. And it's so heinous. It's so anti-Western too, anti-liberal, anti-free speech, anti-everything that we actually value in our societies because of this romanticized fetishization of certain groups of Australians or Westerners that we want to idolise and romanticise and infantilise with our condescending moral support. And so absolutely this is just beyond the pale. But when you elect a Burke, like Mr. Burke, you're going to get Burkey decisions, aren't you? It's okay.